Star Wars only, I don't know what the fuck your problem is.
The writer and director of Star Wars Episodes 7 and 9, The Rise of Skywalker, The Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams, has talked about his favorite scene in the prequel trilogy, and that is the iconic, the classic Darth Plagueis the Wise story. He talks about this in an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and he says, there's just something about that scene. There's just two people sitting there. It's visually interesting, but I just think Ian's performance in it is spectacular. And I gotta agree with the guy. I don't know if I would say it's my favorite scene. I'd have to truly think about what my favorite scene of the prequels is, being a fan who isn't a big fan of the prequels myself. But he kind of hits the nail on the head on why that scene really sticks with a lot of us. A lot of people make memes out of it, and that kind of annoys me with the prequels nowadays. People, like, they say it's good because of the memes of, oh, it's great, look how many memes we can make out of it. Come on, man, let's look a little deeper into the story. Star Wars isn't about the fucking memes, even though the Baby Yoda memes are like the shit now. But still, when it comes to that scene specifically, there is something about learning a little bit more about the Sith, the mystical side of the dark side in a way, and not only that, just the Force in general. And he's right, Ian's performance was great. What was interesting about that scene is the location too. They're kind of at a space opera, if you will, and I know Lucas wanted to do it there instead of constantly in the Emperor's chamber and whatnot, wherever he was talking to Anakin, and he told him that he learned the ways of the Force from his master. There were so many scenes in that room, it did kind of get annoying after a while. And so when you have a different setting, and even the sound design behind it, you know, the kind of the opera in the background and just the music, I mean, there's something special about that scene where you explore the dark side of the Force, and he's like, the dark side is a pathway to many abilities, some considered to be unnatural. I mean, there's a funny thing about it being a meme too. I always fuck around with Star Wars friends from time to time. You just kind of use that Palpatine voice whenever he's talking. Did you ever hear? Just fucking, you gotta love it, man. And Ian is such a great actor, and even Hayden Christensen was talking about how that was one of his favorite scenes to film, because you can see Ian is he's a very gracious actor. He allows the other actors to kind of work well with the scene, and it is one of the better scenes in the Star Wars saga, because you have just these two characters sitting down and talking. It's not, a lot of people look at the prequels and they're like, oh, I love the lightsaber battles, it's so fucking cool. And it's like, hey, there's more to Star Wars than just a lot of flashy sabers and big boom booms in the sky, my friends. There's some moments like this where you really just want your characters to sit down and talk. One of the best scenes in the prequel trilogy, at least for me, is when Anakin's looking out and he's thinking about his decision, and Mace Windu's going off to fight Palpatine, and then Padme is also looking out and kind of thinking, and she's tearing up and everything, and so is Anakin. And there's no dialogue. He's just sitting there and he's thinking. And he gets a little tear down his eye, and you know he's deciding on what he has to do, and you get the little operetics in the background. That lady starts giving the little chant of Ra or whatever the fuck, and it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful scene, and you kind of have that same moment. With the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise, this story about a Sith Lord, and even when you're watching the film, you don't know that it's Palpatine's master. We learn that as time goes on, but it's so interesting learning more about the Sith, and learning more about the Jedi that are, you know, going for power in a way for good, and Anakin kind of defends the Jedi and the Jedi Code, and Palpatine's like, well, if you really think about it, Anakin, and it just kind of manipulates him slowly, and you can see the gears turning in Anakin's head where he's like, well, you know, you got a fucking point, buddy. You're not wrong there. And even the part where Palpatine just kind of, he's sitting there and he's watching, and Anakin shows up and he just looks to his fellow politician, leave us. You gotta love Palpatine, man. He's such a good villain. Parts like that in the Star Wars saga, in the prequels, seeing the manipulation that Palpatine has on someone. And I think what we really can find interesting about this scene, and the fact that it's one of J.J. Abrams' favorite scenes in the prequel trilogy at least, is that might have some hints on Palpatine coming back in Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. He talks about his master using the midichlorians to create life. And that potentially has some implications on Palpatine's return, using the midichlorians. I'm not a fan of the midichlorians. I thought they're unnecessary and annoying to me, but hey, a lot of prequel fans like them and have no problems with them. Good for you. And that is something we can bring into the sequel trilogy and and kind of bring the entire story circle to a close in a way of the hints of Palpatine talking about the dark side as a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. I mean, him coming back from the dead, that sounds like a perfect setup for something like that, where Palpatine can use the midichlorians in a way that brings him back to life somehow, some way. A lot of interest. The Force is very powerful. We always forget exactly how powerful it is, but when it comes to the dark side, there is that unnatural part of it, if you will, to quote the great Ian McDiarmid himself. I'm interested to see Palpatine's return, and I'm happy to hear that J.J. Abrams himself says that this is his favorite scene in the entire prequel trilogy. I think it's probably one of the better scenes. It's not a lot of action, it's not a lot of flashy, corny dialogue or anything like that. It's actually just two characters sitting down talking about the morality between the Jedi and the Sith, and you have this evil guy slowly but surely manipulating the Chosen One into the dark side. It's a very, very good scene. It's one of the best out of the prequels, and I would agree with J.J. Abrams on that point. So tell me your thoughts below. Is that your favorite scene? Do you agree with J.J. Abrams that it's one of the best scenes in the prequel trilogy? I'd argue it's one of the top 5 dialogue scenes that you have in the entire Skywalker saga, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it below. I'm Star Wars Only. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see y'all next time, and may the Force be with you always.